Welcome back everybody to my channel. Thanks for being here. This week I had to kind of go back to basics in my pour. Now before this particular pour of some beautiful blues coming up in a few seconds here, I had a big failure in my eyes this week in terms of a pour I worked on that turned out I would say top 5 worst ever in 3 years. So I decided to just ditch the entire thing and begin from scratch. So this will be a lesson in perseverance and overcoming obstacles as we see them. So hang in there, I'll walk you through it and we will get to the pour right away. Now I found in my 2.5–3 years of doing this particular craft is that it isn't always fluid in terms of learning experience or what you are progressing towards. I know we always want to hit that, that pocket of time where you feel indestructible, it's all going well and great, and nothing is going wrong. Now, I've had a bit of a hiccup, we'll call it, in the past couple months where my creative side has been a bit burnt out. So don't feel like that is not uncommon. I feel like the most creative people in the world go through dry spells or humps where they need time to step away or to evaluate. So if you're in that space or are frustrated with where you are currently, maybe step back, take a second, take a week off, take 2 weeks off, take a month off, that's okay, and come back to it. Now, as I get into this pour, I took about a week out of my time to make sure I was in a better space to make this pour coming out of a frustration. So anyhow, that's a long-winded way to say if you were in a bit of a funk, that's okay. You will come out the other side better for it and move into some pretty cool things later on. So keep at it. You'll get there. I promise. Okay, and going into this pour finally. So I decided to use some colors I haven't used in quite some time. So the 4 colors on this pour are primary cyan, phthalo blue, Prussian blue, and metallic white. So the first 3 are by Amsterdam, the white is by Meeden, and the goal of this pour was to, again, kind of go back to my basics and do, for me, what is a more simple pour to get some more confidence going forward. But also, I find blues are really pretty as a combination with a darker color, like a black or a Prussian blue, again, almost black. Can make a very cool aqua theme. So if you found that there are certain colors you enjoy working with more or less, I say do them more and more often, again, to gain that experience and feeling of confidence moving forward, and also being able to improve week over week. Now, it's funny, I mentioned being confident in terms of, ability week over week, right? So the swiping technique, I think, is something that is learnt over time. You don't become necessarily a master at it right off the beginning unless you are incredibly talented. My swipes here were not bad, but I could have done them a bit more pattern friendly, we'll call it, because I found that I was very lacing heavy on the one side of the pour and a little light on the other. So lesson learned, just be mindful of where your primary focus may be and where your paints actually may spill off to create that pattern you intend. Okay, now as I go in for my tilts here, I decided to go with the far right corner first, I believe, to stretch the white lacing in the top left corner down to the middle. I knew that I wanted that lacing to be a focal point of this pour, not knowing how I could keep it in the center and not have it spill. So I wanted to go really slow with intent off to the first corner, and I'm simply trying to get all of that big puddle from the top down on the right hand side, as we look at it, to be equal, because when I mixed this paint it was quite fluid, but as it sat out on the counter for a few hours became incredibly thick and I didn't test it before I made the pour. So again, lesson learned, just check your things, make sure your consistencies are where you want them before you begin, because once you start, that's kind of it. Game's over. You got it. It's go time. Anyhow, these were a bit thicker than I wanted, but that's okay. Now, as we go into the second quarter, I'm always mindful to bring my paint back into the center before tilting off to the side again, because I want to try my best to maintain the idea or the effects of the lacing I intended. Now also, you may have noticed that I am painting during the day. Now, I don't typically paint ever during the day. That's just my preference. I like to paint at night when my kids are in bed and I've got time to focus on me and just have some quiet time. Luckily, I've been off work this week, so I've had plenty of time to pick and choose when I want to do a few activities. So I did find for this particular painting that with these colors, the daylight did help me determine where to go with my patterns based on that difference of daylight compared to the dining room light above the table, which was kind of cool. So test and trial what works best for you. In my case, I will still stick to painting mostly at night, although this worked out fairly well. So leading into the last corner of my tilts, as I bring this back to the center, I think back now looking at this video that I really wanted to have one more stretch of lacing across that top right third of the painting. It was simply too dark for me, but again, we learn something new every week or make repetitive mistakes like I do. Anyway, so we do our best and always go back to try again another day. All in all, this painting turned out quite nice. I have been experimenting also with my ratios of Floetrol to pouring medium. Now I used about 1/3 Floetrol, 2/3 pouring medium, and I found that the Wreck of a Disaster pour I did before this one dried really nicely, and this blue as well is turning out quite nice as it cures upstairs. So anyway, test your pours with a whole bunch of things, and you'll find that you will begin to enjoy doing your paintings a certain way over time. Okay, as we go in for a bit of an overhead look of the final product, I will leave you with this. If you are newer to pouring, generally speaking, or are in a funk, keep at it, keep going, it will pass, I promise you. My favorite part of this pour was this white lacing that bled into some nice purple. The cyan was just great. Phthalo blue is a really fun color because it mixes quite well with everything. The white and silver that popped through was really quite gorgeous, and I would encourage you to try an aqua themed pour at some point in your paint pouring career. So anyway, if you have enjoyed this video, please click the like button below and consider subscribing to the channel as well. And we will catch you again in the next one.